Hi everybody, I'm David Pessagno, the event director for the Spiedie Fest Balloon Rally, here to talk to you about the history of the Spiedie Fest. I get that question asked a lot to me. And a lot of people don't know the history of the Spiedie Fest. It actually started in 1981 as a Spiedie cooking contest. Rob Salamita and Paul Van Savage started it at the park that year. Might have had like a softball game with it, but the main thing was the Spiedie cooking contest. They did that for 2 years. In those 2 years, Ron Rogers, Joe Slavic, myself, and other people were going to these balloon rallies in the Northeast. And one time we came back and Ronnie said, you know, we can do this. Joe was the charity part with Catholic Charities and gave a lot of volunteers and a lot of support to the event. Ronnie was the balloonist at the time. Back in the day, back in the early 80s, any night in the summer, you could see a number of hot air balloons up in the air in Binghamton. Became really popular. But then we incorporated the first year, the Spiedie Fest Balloon Rally, and it took off. The very first year, we had about 11,000 people at the event. We did a volleyball tournament. We might have had a local band, maybe a small kids area, and maybe 8 or 10 hot air balloons that made up the very first, in 1983, the very first Spiedie Fest Balloon Rally. Then it started to grow from there. We started to add things in. The craft show started to take off. The antique car show started to develop. We developed a 5K. We had different businesses at the time that wanted to get involved. The Spiedie Fest is run really through sponsorship. That's how we make this work. As we get into it, I'll explain that a little bit further. But back in the day, we've had sponsors here, like the Ackles family, that at the time had Giant Market, that still today support the event as a family. And we all know how important Spiedie Fest is to Broome County. So moving into the 90s, we had a lot of local and regional bands. But the music today is kind of where it was in about 1996 or 1997. We decided to bring in national acts, Lisa Loeb being one of the first acts, Maya, bands like Kansas, Little Big Town, Cheap Trick, bands like that we started to do and became really, really popular. And we'd fill that part of the venue and everybody wanted more music and more music. As it got bigger and bigger and people were touring all over the country, Binghamton became the stop where we were able to bring in some of those national acts that people got to see here at Spiedie Fest, and it might have been their first time to Binghamton, or they had played at the arena before and were playing Spiedie Fest. But the music became a big part of it, as did the meet and greets. That became a big part of it. Hulk Hogan was one of our meet and greets. We used to do baseball players, Goose Gossage, Bucky Dent, people like that became really popular to do as meet and greets. The reality shows became popular at that time. Survivor, we had a gentleman named Rupert that some of you may remember was one of the most popular Survivor contestants of all time. We brought Rupert in 2 years, but the very first year we had about 4,000 or 5,000 people that wanted to meet Rupert. It was sponsored by Partners Trust, which is now M&T Bank, which is still a supporter of the event. And that we had so many people there, we didn't know how he was going to meet everybody, and he was such a good person. He stayed till every person got to meet him. He was supposed to be there 3 hours and was here about 6 hours to make sure he hit everybody. Same with Hulk Hogan. When we had him there, super popular, great guy. We actually had him twice. The first time was an actual meet and greet. The second time, he came just to support his daughter Brooke, that was one of the warm-up acts. Brooke Hogan still sings today, but we had her in to be one of the opening acts, and Hulk came along and was gracious enough to meet a lot of the sponsors backstage. So we get into the Disney era, where we had Demi Lovato and people like that were very popular on those Disney shows, the Nickelodeon shows, those types of shows, and everybody, those two we filled up to have 2,000 or 3,000 people that would be there for meet and greets for these very popular acts that we brought in for the meet and greets. So that gives you a little history on the music and the meet and greets and how popular that's become. Please come out, 40th anniversary. We hope the whole community comes out and supports this great event. Thank you.